Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Growth Bites. I'm very, very happy to see you virtually again. And thanks for the questions that you sent. I'll do my best to try to answer them. Today we have we have 6 questions. Remember that every Tuesday we have this conversation, and I always put up a Slido. If you go to www.slido.com, I will always give you in the invites the code that you can use to join the Q&A session. And then you can write your questions if you have any, or you can read what's there and then you can vote up whichever question you like more. So I'll go from top to bottom, and anything that you vote up will get closer to the top and has more chances of getting addressed. Remember that these are conversations that are for your benefit, for my learning too, because I learn a lot also thinking about some of the things that are asked. And hopefully this is something that you can apply to your day-to-day, and the questions that I'm responding to, which are related to people's work experiences, are being helpful. Let me go into the first question. How can I balance multiple managers? I work in a matrix organization and priorities sometimes compete, and I don't want to get in trouble. First of all, I recognize your problem, not your problem, but your situation. And it's pretty common these days that we all end up with more than one manager. It could be your direct, solid, functional manager, somebody in your function who sits right above you. And at the same time, you might have a dotted line manager, could be somebody you support. So for example, if you are in charge of HR for a business unit, then your direct boss would probably be the head of HR, so somebody in HR above you, and your dotted line would be the business leader of that business unit that you're supporting. To use that example, it could be something else. Or you could have bosses that are in different geographical locations. So if you have responsibility over a certain part of the company that sits mostly in any given geography, you could have some line of report into the manager for that particular neck of the woods. And at the same time, have other reporting lines into people in your head office or wherever you're sitting. It can get complicated very, very quickly. One of the risks of having multiple managers is the overload, because oftentimes they are not aware of what everybody else is asking you. They should know that they all are placing demands upon you, not necessarily what these demands are, as much as the consumption of your resources that is brought on by these demands. People might have the temptation, if you're helping them, to ask you to do more and more and more, assuming that they are entitled to a larger portion of your time than they are. And so that could be problematic, because at the end of the day, if you add the pieces, they cannot add to more than 100%. And the risk is that they might. So you need to be clear about what exactly your capacity utilization is as a result of what different bosses demand. The other thing that I would recommend is make sure that you set boundaries. Particularly if there's one that demands more than the other, make sure that you set the right limits. Do you have protected work times? So times where nobody should be able to schedule time on your calendar so that you can work and focus on producing. So that's another thing. Set protected time, make well-delimited blocks of work time. Make sure that when you're doing work for one, you focus on that one and you're not trying to multiplex and do a little bit of everything at the same time. It'll just cause you to burn out and get exhausted, because it's very tiresome to just keep tabs on what are you doing for who else and where exactly does it sit in terms of the status. So I would recommend against that. Now, the other thing to do, and this sounds Machiavellian, make your own calculations. Who among your different bosses could be more powerful, who could have more of an impact on your career, who has the least. And I'm not saying give more time all the time to the person who you deem to be more powerful. It's just so that if forced to choose, you know how to prioritize. So in a time of crunch, if you have a boss that is more powerful than another one in relative terms, and he or she asks you to do something more, both of them ask you to do something that's more urgent, then you might want to consider prioritizing the work or the request of the most powerful of the two in this example. So that's another thing to take into consideration. It could also happen in my experience when I've had, matrix bosses or bosses from a matrix where the reporting lines could be horizontal and vertical, like the example that we said, right? The functional reporting line and the business reporting line. They could have conflicting priorities. They could have competing agendas. It's not that they're necessarily out to get you, it's that you're caught in the middle. So the best thing that you can do is organize a Zoom call if they're not in the same office, or get them together in a meeting room and talk it out, and then have them discuss and agree. And you have to lead that discussion to where you say, listen, I want to do 100% for both of you. I cannot. And so I need you to help me prioritize what it is that I'm going to focus on so that it works for you, and for you, boss number one, and for you, boss number two. So that conversation, that transparency is essential. And you need to make sure that you are strong in communicating your needs too. So take care of yourself. It's not all bad. One of the benefits of having more than one manager is that you have eyes on you from different perspectives. And you can get pretty good, valuable feedback. One might see you in a business setting, the other might see you in a functional setting. One might see you in the context of a geographical team, the other might be seeing you in the context of customer work. Use that to your benefit. What can they tell you about how you're working in the different contexts? Now you have a multi-angle view of yourself that you could use to learn and to grow, but you just need to be careful and be smart about it. Second question, some changes were recently made in my company, and now I have a direct report that is much older and with more experience than me. Any advice? I've been in that situation too. And I'll tell you two examples. One is when I was younger in my career, I had a person reporting into me who was significantly more experienced. This person had been in the company for quite a long time and very, very specialized on accounting matters and back office related processes such as accounts payable or accounts receivable. At that time, to be quite honest and transparent, I was less experienced. I was insecure, and I defaulted to try to show that I knew everything. And so I didn't rely or ask for this person's advice. I just tried to come up with all of the answers. And in so doing, I created rework, I created frustration, and I created a lot of confusion because the person would have one view and I would have another one, just to prove that I was there for a reason. And that's exactly the wrong approach to take, because what I achieved was alienate the person and cause confusion in the team. When you have somebody who has more experience than you, who's more tenured, who's been around longer, with time, I realized it's a gift, because now you're walking into a situation where you might or might not have deep knowledge, but for sure, this person has a lot of institutional knowledge, a lot of background, a lot of technical expertise that's at your fingertips. And the first thing that you need to do in that situation, which is what I did later on, about, 6 years after my first instance, you need to make that person feel valued and appreciated and respected. They have earned it. If they have been in the company that long, and if they've been working in that particular process or area of specialty within your function, then the most likely scenario is they're not there because they're lucky. They're there because they know how to do their job. So rather than seeing it as a threat to your authority or to the fact that you have been, say, anointed the leader of that team, view the person as a partner. Let them know that you value their contributions, that you value their perspectives, that you're going to come to them for advice and for counsel. And that's part of what your job is too, is to leverage the wisdom and the smarts that are within your team. I guarantee you this person is going to feel a lot better about helping you versus the alternative, which is what I did so many years ago, which is kind of set up a competition that was fruitless. It was stupid. It was frustrating for everybody involved. So show respect, show appreciation, ask for their advice, make sure that you leverage them, give them some autonomy. What can they do for you? They have a ton of experience. Why would you have to be micromanaging them? If you think of the situational leadership model where you have this curve of competency, if it's a person that's very new to the job and doesn't really know what they don't know, then for sure you are welcome to hold their hand and walk them hand by hand through each of the items and each of the issues that they might be working on. The more experience they get, the farther back you should be stepping. If this person really knows what they're doing, the worst thing you can do is be breathing down their backs. Make sure that they see your objectives, that they understand the strategy, that they understand what you're trying to achieve, ask for the help, give them recognition, and give them their place and respect their role. Make them visible and make them valuable in front of the team. That's, in my experience, the best way to enlist the undying support of somebody who's been around for a while and who might feel upset that somebody more junior is now their boss, or that might feel they're going to have to be fighting you with every decision or every question or every topic. They should know that they're going to be your partner. They're going to help you think about stuff, and they can influence you in items in which they're experienced. So I think that's a gift, and you should be happy that you have somebody like that, and be wise about engaging with them. Take them out for lunch every so often, get their view, get their take on issues, on different topics, and leverage that experience. Let's move to the next one. How do I get my boss to stop sending me emails and SMS over the weekend? Okay, this is such a common experience. You cannot probably imagine how often this happens in different industries and different companies at all levels. There are some people who are very committed to their work, and listen, all the power to them, right? It's good. I'm happy that there are people, as I was, like, very committed. You're trying to do your best. Some people, in my view, take it into their own personal lives or their own personal space, if they have one. They're thinking in the best interest of the company, probably, but they're just not off. In so doing, they come up with things that they believe that they need to connect with you for. And instead of properly prioritizing and properly sequencing and just scheduling the outreach to you, just pops into their mind. It's very easy, particularly these days with portable technology, it's very easy to just pull out their phone and write something. Hey, John, hey, Jane, I need help with this. This just came into my mind. Let's speak about this on Monday. Or the famous mail that I'm sure you've seen where it says, oh, this is not super urgent, but I want you to start thinking about it. And let's talk about this first thing in the morning on Monday. So talk with your boss openly about the fact that you're open to it and you're willing to work on a weekend or over your vacations if it's critical. If you're in the middle of a transaction, if you're in the middle of a project that is time sensitive and there's no other way around invading your personal time. If that's the case, then set the rules also clear in a respectful manner with your boss going in, if that's a new boss, or if not, just give him or her feedback in a polite, transparent manner, and help them understand too that there are things in your life that are getting affected by this, and this could have been solved in a different way at a different time. Maybe they don't know, and you need to remind them that you can schedule mails. You can write 90 or 90,000 mails over the weekend, hit send, and schedule them so that they won't immediately burst into the screen of somebody else. And so that's something that you need to help them. I guess here, as in many other things, communication is the key to it all. And my advice to you would be over rather than under communicate, and let them know what the impact is every time that they do that, because it produces stress. It occupies your mind space, and the time that you should spend thinking about that hook or that slice in your golf swing, what movie to go watch with your kids, which restaurant it would be good to take your significant other out for a drink or dinner, instead of spending your time thinking about that, all of a sudden you have this seed growing in your head about this thing that your boss planted in there, maybe even without meaning to do it. So make sure that they know the impact. It's like any feedback conversation. You're doing this. This is the impact. This is my proposal. And again, it might be that it's warranted. And if so, then yeah, agree to it and explain that it's only in this particular set of circumstances that it's okay to impinge upon your personal time. But other than that, I would believe that everybody needs to learn to respect everybody else's time, particularly their personal time and over the weekend, and when they're supposed to just be unwinding and getting back to their day-to-day lives, their families, their loved ones, their friends, their hobbies. That's what they should be doing. They should not be, half brain thinking about that question that whoever is their supervisor sent, and would have their brain trying to play around of tennis or of golf or whatever it is they're doing. Communication is the name of the game. Talk it out with your boss. Be respectful, be tactful, be fact-based, have examples, explain what the impact is of this behavior. And I'm pretty sure, in my experience, it always had a good result, and it did modify the behavior. It tends to recur. So make sure that every time that happens, you help them see that they're doing it again. And over time, I'm pretty sure it'll get better. Let's go to the next question. How can I get a colleague who is performing very poorly to understand that she's not cutting it? I've given her feedback, but nothing happens, and I'm exhausted. Everybody can have issues at work. Everybody can have a harder time than others. And we all go through personal situations that sometimes distract us from what we should be doing. As a result, performance can take a dip. So you need to understand that, right? Now, if you have given this person feedback in a good, courteous, clear, unambiguous way, you let them know that their performance is lagging. You have given them feedback in the past and give them examples, and that those specific behaviors that you're seeing or would like to see and are not seeing, and again, be specific with examples, need to be corrected. And if it doesn't happen, if they're not corrected, if the person's not reacting, it might be because they're not able to, it might be because they're not willing to. If this is something where you've given the person the benefit of your feedback, the benefit of the doubt, and if you truly are, genuinely are constructive about it, and you're not just trying to break the person down, you should try to always build people up. But if that doesn't work, then you need to consider separating this person from your team, right? Maybe there's a better fit at another area, another function, another team in your company. Maybe it's performance capabilities and interests and profiles. Maybe the person just doesn't work in your company. So my advice would be, if you've given him or her feedback repeatedly and that doesn't work, then you need to take action, because every minute, when I said think about your team, every minute that person is there, he or she is consuming valuable energy from yourself and from your team, because she's not pulling her weight or he is not pulling his weight, and everybody else needs to do extra work to carry that load. And that's the best way to lag your team down. It acts as an anchor, and your team cannot focus on those things that are priorities to you. And you cannot focus on those things that are priorities to you and to your job and to your boss. I've seen it happen countless times. When people don't take action because it's an uncomfortable conversation, it will be difficult. If they procrastinate on this conversation, what ends up happening is the rest of the team is going to feel disengaged because you do nothing about mediocrity or about poor performance, or they're going to feel exhausted because they're doing more work than they should be doing. And you're going to feel frustrated because the quality of their work, this person's work, is subpar, and you need to spend your valuable time doing something that somebody else should have done right the first time. So it's a losing proposition on all sides if you don't take action. So my best piece of advice is, if you've given them the feedback, if you let them know that they're not sufficiently performing or not up to the need, then take action, place them on a probation plan so that they have another chance, another bite of the apple, with a very specific set of activities that they need to do within a certain parameter of quality and time. And if that doesn't work, then have them think about what else they want to do. Like I said, maybe it's just a matter of fit within the team, within the function. It's a skill set. Maybe they are good at another function within the company. But the last thing you want to do is throw a hot potato to some other manager. So if the person cannot cut it, to use your term, please, I beg of you, don't move that person elsewhere, because you're giving somebody else a problem, and that's not good for the overall benefit of the company. So your duty as a manager, as a leader, is take action on people who are not performing, who are draining the energy out of the rest of your team and of yourself. The flip side of that, of course, is also take action on the persons who are high potential, high performance. Also take action on those, but that's a different conversation. We'll have it some other day. Let's move to the next question. Any advice for networking effectively? Well, networking is one of the topics that we cover in my trainings. There's in my 3-hour training, so we do 3 hours over 3 days. That probably takes about 20 minutes all on its own, networking. And then I have another training that's 3 full days, and in that day it takes almost a full morning. So this is a vast topic, and I'm pretty sure that one morning is not even enough for the topic of networking. But let me try to give you a summary. So networking, what is it? What is it not? It is not having a large collection of names in your Rolodex, address book, LinkedIn contacts. So you should not be striving to quote unquote network by just adding more names to that list. It's not an item that you brag about. So, hey, I'm related or connected to powerful leaders or people who are visible. That's not useful. You need to think about your network carefully, understanding how each of the persons who are part of that network add to your value. Thinking in a work or business environment, I would even say that applies for your personal life too. What do they bring to you? That person who's in your network or who you want to include in your network. You need to be intentional and deliberate about it. If you want to include somebody in your network, what are they bringing to it? What can you give back to them? Is it political influence? Is it their network of contacts? Is it their expertise in any given subject matter? Is it their ability to be empathic and listen to you? You should be very clear about what you're looking for each of these persons to have. So that's the first one. Analyze the persons in your radar screen and then be selective about who you're going to bring into your network and for what. Second one is be selective about who's already in your network. Go over that list and weed out people who are not necessary or who are there and drain your energy. I also talk about this in my trainings, and there's a whole session and the full day, in the 3 full days training, we spend a few hours talking about this. Some people just complain all the time or nothing's good for them. So you need to weed those people out. And then the other one is just be active about it and be generous with your network too. They're not there for you. You're also there for them. So when you're thinking about networking with somebody, what are you bringing to the table? What are you going to give them in exchange? And I'll stop here. There's more, there's way more. And if you want that, visit my LinkedIn page and my page at www.vsharper.com. Let me show you that. So here you have my social. So make sure that you visit that. Any questions that you have, throw them there. Remember that I do a Slido every week. And if there's any other questions that you want me to address, put them there. There was another good question left. I will come back to it next time we meet. So the upcoming Tuesday, we'll have that conversation. I wish you the best for the rest of the week. Thank you for your time. Thanks for your attention. Take care, be successful, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.